a little light to say we're actually live because I don't believe it otherwise. And I think we are actually live. Good morning. It's Sean from Traffic Services. I am joined with by Scott Marshall, the safe driver, and of course, my partner, Brandon. Hello, guys. How's it going?
Good morning. Hi, guys.
Morning,
It's going
Sean.
well.
Morning, Scott.
It's good.
It's nice to be back again. We're in different studio spaces. I can see different backgrounds for all of us, but nonetheless, we're here to deliver that safe driving message. It's awesome.
It is awesome. It's always awesome.
Yeah, and thank you so much for that shout out. It was a nice surprise to hear you plugging us on your podcast. That was awesome.
It's really nice because I doing your show on Fridays, and then I do mine on Sundays. You guys do good work, and it just kind of it reminded me of something from the past, and I thought, you know what, just give you a shout out. You guys have more listeners than I do, but we probably have different listeners, and hopefully we can kind of mesh and join forces.
Absolutely, well, that's what it's all about. Oh, that was loud. We may have some feedback in one of the, if you've got speakers going on. But today we wanted to talk about impaired driving. It's the May long weekend. It's historically one where people tend to, have fun. Now we are on a stay-at-home order, so it's a unique long weekend. But we just had a very high weekend for impaireds last weekend. So coming off that high, I thought it was really important to talk about it again. And in the fact that we want people to drive sober if they do have to drive. And, it's something that I thought would be interesting to speak to you about, Scott, because you're coming from a different perspective instead of enforcement. And you're at the education side when drivers are learning to drive. So what would you say, or how do you broach this whole topic with young drivers?
With impaired driving is something that people even my age and have learned since they were kids, and it's still one of the highest causes of serious injury and fatalities, and it's not just to themselves, it's to innocent people. And we used to teach it a lot in our courses, and I know that they're taught that in school and things like that, and it's still happening, and it's tragic because the people who do drive after drinking are it won't happen to me club. Meaning that other people will crash, other people will get tickets, other people get pulled over, but not me. Well, wrong. And there's, the whole idea of getting behind the wheel after, having a beverage, if you're fully licensed, the G class, the laws are there, as you guys know, that having a drink prior to going, you're not going to be over the legal limit, but you're still impaired to some degree, right? So
well, you make a good point. Impairment is different for everybody, and it starts with different levels. So one person could have one drink and it's some level of impairment, and others could have many, and it affects them differently. But now we have that added bonus of drugs, because 8 of the people that were arrested last weekend were impaired by drug. So alcohol for them wasn't even a factor.
Yeah, you know what, and making the conscious decision that, after you've had the drugs or the alcohol, your feelings are different. How you act is different. Your internal feelings are completely different than what you would be if you were completely sober. So making a decision afterwards, you're going by those current feelings, like, hey, I feel fine. Of course you do, because it's your impairment that's making that decision. It's not your logical self. So this is where all the decisions have to be made prior to and not during and not after. And having a plan. If you're going to have a party, if you're going out, even with the stay at home, and you've got your neighbors across the fence, and you're having a drink across the fence, or smoking up between neighbors, and you want to go to the store, just to the corner store doesn't matter. Just to the grocery store doesn't matter.
You're back.
So it's making those choices prior to. You have to have a plan. But the plan
you just hit the nail. I was waiting for that break to say you got to have a plan. It's exactly that. If you decide in advance that you know what you're going to do, that you're not going to go anywhere, it's a conscious decision. You enter that, and you're not leaving it up to the drunk or impaired person to make decisions for your well-being. because you're effectively a different person at that point.
You are, and talking about that, there is a difference between being impaired and being drunk. You don't have to be drunk to make a poor choice.
Absolutely.
Your reactions are different. Your decision making is different. It's not about the slurred speech and I can't stand, I can't walk. It's okay. I'll be sitting because I'm driving. No, it's also your perception. All these factors are changed when you start drinking, and it is the long weekend. It's going to be beautiful weather, and if you decide that you want to have a barbecue with your family, have the barbecue with your family, but make sure that you've got everything you need prior to, so you don't have to feel tempted that you have to go to the store or go over to grandpa's house and drop off a plate of barbecued food that you had. It'll be the next day. Now, can we talk about the next day?
Let's do that, because
the next day when you feel like you have that hangover, chances are you don't. Chances are you're still impaired.
That's right.
And I grew up hearing that you can have a drink an hour. It's not true. It's not a drink an hour because it depends on your body size.
Yeah, totally different for every person.
Exactly.
Male or female even,
Yeah, absolutely. The enzymes in your stomach are different from male to female. If you're a regular drinker, your enzymes are different compared to someone who's a social drinker. You lose 15 milligrams of alcohol per hour, and there's nothing you can do that can speed that up except time. The cold shower, the coffee. No, it's even sleeping it off. No, all you do is sleep off the feeling, but it's still in your body.
Scott, are you saying that no amount of singing and opening the window will make you sober? That's shocking for many people.
Don't be singing near me, man.
It's funny. Both Brandon and I have arrested numerous people in the morning who've woken up and gotten dressed and headed out to work because, hey, that's the reset button. You go to sleep, you wake up, you're good. And they're not. Obviously, they were in collisions or they were displaying signs of impairment when they were driving. And in the discussions about, well, what did your last night look like? And I can't tell you how many have said, well, I had a 2-4 of beer. It's a tremendous amount of alcohol. And it simply doesn't leave your body, like you were saying, just because you went to sleep.
No, it doesn't. And where I used to live, one morning, a Sunday morning, there was typically it was like a ride program, and where you really couldn't avoid them based on where the road was. And my next door neighbor thought it was kind of unusual that it was Sunday morning, but I knew the answer, and I said, let's go see if we can talk to the officers. And I introduced myself, and I said, just a curious question my neighbor was asking, have you pulled anybody over at where they had failed a breathalyzer? And they said, yeah, they've had a few that Sunday morning. So the alcohol is staying in there. So whether you have having a 2-4 or half a case, it doesn't really matter, especially again, if you're a smaller individual compared to a larger individual, that's going to stay in because you have less blood. The blood alcohol.
But it's funny. You remind me of a video that I saw. It was part of our training, and it was a gentleman who was falling down, couldn't walk, and he provided a breath sample, and they said his reading was somewhere in the vicinity of 200, if memory serves me correctly. And then they had a female who came through and was being booked and was straight as an arrow in terms of standing up, balance, no issue, no slurred speech, and she blew 400. That's
incredible.
It's 400, and you'd think that one person was you never expect those results. And we talk about what kind of observations we make as officers when we're looking for an impaired driver, and there's the obvious swerving vehicle, but I've had someone who just because of an odor of alcohol or admission of consumption provided a breath sample and failed, and it wouldn't have been based on the quiz question, of an officer at the side of the road. Now, something that of a segue, we have something in Canada now called mandatory alcohol screening, MAS, which means we no longer require the suspicion of alcohol in order to provide to do a test of at the roadside, as long as you're driving a vehicle and you're there for a lawful stop, we can employ this this test, which means we no longer have to guess or smell. And and it really comes in handy now because of the pandemic. But the number of people arrested will go up. So just the old tricks of or the tricks, they weren't functional, but the beliefs that people had of penny under your tongue to avoid the officer's detection, these things never worked. But
No.
even if they did, we'll presume all of those things worked once upon a time. It's out the window because we're no longer going based on our observations. Now, that's not to say we can't go on our observations, but there's another avenue that covers the loophole or the untested folks, and it's likely why so many more arrests are happening.
There are, and there's a company that I do some work for called Not Your Child Corp. They provide single-use breathalyzers where they can tell themselves whether or not they're capable of getting behind the wheel. Very unique product, not very expensive. The cost of a $5 breathalyzer to say, nope, I'm not going anywhere. But the problem is that you still have to have that idea in your head before you start, because you have to have that logical, comprehensive mind to say that I want to make sure that I'm safe. I want to make sure my family is safe. And, the whole idea, well, I'm only hurting myself. No, you're not. It's the whole factor. I mean, if you were dizzy, remember, when you're a kid, you're spinning around getting dizzy and trying to walk up the lawn. That's the same feeling when you're driving a car. And how do you keep it straight? And we hear about all these other factors that people drive and they lose control of their vehicle. Why do you want to do that to yourself, to your family, or to your friends?
We've spoken about this a couple of times where Brandon and I, where we talk about the fact that the impaired driver themselves are rarely as injured as the people that they hit. And they're just so relaxed when they're in a collision, but everybody else gets seriously injured or killed as a result. So the statement that it's a victimless crime couldn't be more false.
Yeah, it's the line I've used, as I said, and I said it earlier, is that it won't happen to me, club, but it does happen to me, and it does happen. And if you're charged with impaired driving and you crash, your insurance is not covered. There's just so many factors involved. But I mean, let's talk about solutions right now. Have a plan. We talked about. Well, let's talk about the plan. Have a designated driver. Use Uber. Even in the pandemic, Uber is still running. You're drinking at home. Even food will slow down the rate at which the alcohol goes into your bloodstream. But again, the whole idea is, will that alcohol go into your bloodstream when you decide to drive? Have a plan so you're not really driving the next morning. Having the idea that if this being a long weekend, Monday is your sober day. So if you're barbecuing and you're out and at the pool and whatever and enjoying the beautiful weather this weekend, that Monday is the day where you're not doing anything. So you're ready come Tuesday to go back to work, or what have you, and have a sober day.
I get to now throw in that whole Canada Road Safety Week message. It's not worth the risk. That's the hashtag, not worth the risk, that we've been using all week for Canada Road Safety Week. And it's true. Impaired driving, aggressive driving, distracted driving, not wearing your seatbelt, all of these things are not worth the risk. Why do we put ourselves in these positions to take a chance when the negative, the potential outcome is so high? For injury, for death, for even just for being ticketed, having your insurance rates go up. It boggles the mind as to why people go in that direction and experiment.
It does. You go back to the seatbelt use. Ontario has one of the highest rates of people wearing a seatbelt in the country, which is fantastic. But we're not 100%. Why not?
I don't know how anybody drives without a seatbelt. It's one thing if you're moving your car from one parking spot to another on your driveway, but when I get that beeping in my ear, it's chalk or fingernails on the chalkboard. It's the worst sound in the world next to my alarm clock. And yet people somehow manage to drive or figure out ways to disable it, or they spend a lot of time instead of just wearing the seatbelt.
It is, and even a short trip, that, and so when I talk to people about wearing a seatbelt, for those who don't, or they say it's restrictive. There are other apparatuses you can buy if you're a larger person and it chokes your neck. You can raise it and lower it and things like that, so it's more comfortable. But it is something that keeps you in your seating compartment. So you're dealing with inertia. You're dealing with this type of energy that when you swerve, even though you're holding a steering wheel, your body can be thrown across the seating compartment. And you don't have to travel far. You just have to have that sudden movement of braking or steering or swerving that can throw you out an open window, even if you were trying to hold onto the steering wheel, or throw you across the front seat, and therefore now you can't see. So when I tell people that wearing a seatbelt can actually help you avoid a collision, they're like, no, it keeps you safe so that way you're not hurt. No, it keeps you upright. Keeps you upright in your seat so that way you can see and you're in the position to brake and steer, so that way you can avoid a collision. If you have to swerve when a driver pulls out suddenly or a child runs out onto the road, you can swerve out of the way and still be upright.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at high performance drivers, rally car drivers, F1 drivers. They're using the seatbelt not just as a safety tool for retention, so they can be firmly planted in their seat. That way they have a firm contact with the wheel and with the pedals. They're not shifting their body around as they move. So the seatbelt's there to make you a better driver and then to also keep you safe in the long run.
That's a great example. That really is a great example. And to be upright. There was a couple of a brother sister that was in one of my classes, and I saw them leave on a previous class, and they didn't have their seatbelt on, and neither did their parent who was driving them. So I knew that the next week we were discussing seatbelt use as well. So I kind of brought it up, and then I kind of threw out the fact, and I kind of watched it on the corner of my eye, and I said, does anybody here know someone who doesn't wear a seatbelt? And hands went up. And the brother and sister kind of like looking around. I said, well, so what's your opinion on that? Yeah, it was a little bit of peer pressure. And then it was the whole idea. So what happens if you're wearing a seatbelt, but your front seat passenger doesn't? What happens when you swerve suddenly to your right? And they said, well, the passenger swerves to your left. I said, yeah, right across your arms. And now you can't steer, even though you have your seatbelt on. You're not in a position because you have a body across yours. So now what?
You brought up two things that I want to touch on. One, the rally car seatbelt. We've had a lot of discussion on our TikTok about these racing harnesses that people are putting into their personal vehicles. They look cool. They're very fashionable. And there's a belief that they're safer. But we've been speaking to race professionals who say, yeah, it's safer when it's installed properly and used on a track in conjunction with a cage, a helmet, and a neck brace and all these things. So it's not meant for the road. It's not legal for the road. And you also can't move to do other things like seatbelts have they lock and unlock based on inertia and a system, but you can't. They also work regular seatbelts also work in conjunction with airbags. You don't have that same with a rally car system or a 6-point harness. 5-point harness. It's not the same. They're not intended for the road. And we're actually looking to, or we're going to be speaking with De Silva Racing about those seat belts that people are modifying and putting into their own vehicles, and the laws and truly the safety about it. The other thing that you touched on that made me think is dogs, animals, other things, even just parcels inside of a passenger compartment. It's extremely dangerous. Let's talk about that.
They're projectiles. We'll talk about items. The loose items in your vehicle. If you have to have loose items in your vehicle and they don't go in your trunk, having them on the floor behind your seat is a better idea than having them on your seat. In the front seat, it could be a distraction, but it can also hit you when you have to brake or steer suddenly. Having pets, I love animals. I really do. And so many people describe their family pet as part of their family, and they place them on their lap, first of all, as a passenger seat. But what's your human reaction if you have to stop? So you're a passenger and the driver hits the brake. You're going to put your hands out in front of you to brace yourself. That's a human reaction, even though you have your seatbelt on. So what happens to your pet? Goes against the dashboard or the windshield. So why? And there are harnesses. There are harnesses that you can have for your family pet, the dog too. And I see the people who have the dogs on their lap when they're driving, and correct me if I'm wrong, but careless driving, crowding the driver's seat, all charges that can happen by having a pet on your lap as a driver. And love your pet. That's great. They like to go out in the car and have the windows down. That's fine. Back seat. You put a harness on them. It plugs into your seatbelt harness, so they're secured and they're not going to slam into hard metal and get injured. You wouldn't do that to your children, I hope. So let's not do it to your family pets either.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe 20 years ago or so, it was harder to get access to this kind of technology, to get access to things that would keep your pets sort of confined and safe, and keep the car clean. I know that's a factor that people are concerned about bringing their pets in, but now, I mean, it's a quick Amazon search away for you to get some quality equipment that would keep your pet safe, keep the car clean, and keep everything contained nicely.
Absolutely. Whether you have an SUV, a van, or just a sedan or a coupe, there are different harnesses you need. So I did this on one of my podcasts as well, about talking about your pets, and a little bit of a rant about keeping them safe. But I searched ahead of time, and you're absolutely right, Brendan. You can do an Amazon search, and you can find them at a lot of different stores where you can find this harness, and they're not expensive, and your pet will get used to it. It's like picking up your leash and the pet goes crazy. Your dog goes crazy. You pick up the harness, they know they're going in the car. So they get, and they're smart. The pets will understand that to that degree that, okay, it's time to go for a ride. And you can still talk to them. You can still talk to your dog and expect them to answer you as you're in the car going for that ride.
Yeah. Well, here's a little something we got from, there we go. Yeah, so careless driving. Oh, let's see if I can get that to show again. I don't know why it's not working for me. It's my mouse. My mouse is having some issues. There we go.
I'm
so
back.
This is Scott Matthews, who's one of our investigators in the hit and run squad, the CIB here at Traffic Services. And
he's got an amazing first name. Amazing first name.
Yes, yeah, only the best. But he laid a careless driving charge in relation to someone speeding with the dog on their lap. So for those folks out there who think that you're not going to potentially incur some sort of, while it's not necessarily illegal, there's no direct charge saying thou shalt not drive with the dog on your lap, there are charges that can be related to you putting yourself in a position where you're putting yourself or other people at risk on the road because of whatever environment you're setting up in the inside of your vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I call it my pet peeve, so to speak. When you're doing things to a point where it's you see it every day, and it just boggles my brain. It really does. And treat them with the respect that you want to be treated, and treat them with the respect. If someone threw something at your dog, you'd be all upset at them. Well, then why are you putting them in a position where they can hit their head and get internal bleeding? An airbag comes out. Imagine. And your dog's on your lap?
Yeah. Dogs have these great things inside of them. I think they're called bones and skeletal systems, and those things could become one with you and cause you, never mind them, but you more injury. And forgive me if I've hit that or something you've already talked about, because my internet exploded. But I'm back. I'm glad you're still here. What do you think of these dog restraints that integrate with the seatbelts?
Yeah, we were talking about that as you were AWOL, and they're very inexpensive. And I did talk about that on one of my podcasts, also one of my articles, that it's something else that you can incorporate into your driving thing. When I talked about seatbelts for humans, how your passenger can be thrown across your arms and stop you from driving, so can your pet. And you get a 60-pound dog, it's pretty easy. Plus, it's a distraction. You can't see sometimes, even if it's a small dog and it's thrown into your face, you can't see. So yeah, and it's not always about the charges. And one of the things when I gave my shout out on my last week's podcast, It was because how we work together as education and enforcement.
Yeah.
And this type of information, I think, is for people who haven't really thought about it. And it's not so much that we're saying, hey, but it's like, you know what? What if? What if this happened? How would you feel? And it's not so much about the charge; it's about the human reaction that you've injured your pet or your passengers.
You bring up a very good point. Very often what we do is make decisions and use the excuse of we're doing it for the dog or the person, and really it's for ourselves. So we don't want to put the dog in the back seat because the dog's going to be unhappy. Well, I want the dog to be happy, so I'm going to keep it on my lap because no, it's probably just because you don't want it to be yelling and screaming or peeing, and it's content when it's with you. Great, but is that the safest choice you could make? You're making a choice for reasons that really aren't valid when it comes to safe driving.
No, exactly. It's sometimes we have to make improvements and not excuses. Excuses put us off the hook. Reasons are different than excuses. The reason is I want to be happy, not an excuse of the dog. My daughters will joke that our cats will speak to them, and well, he said yes, he said no. And we laugh about it, but there are some who actually believe they understand what their dog is saying, and no, it's you. It's that little voice telling you that you'll be happier if that's the case. And it's really about road safety, and it's not about people safety. It's road safety, and if whatever happens, it's think about the outcome, and the outcome is that it's a ticket, maybe it's insurance increase, maybe, but it's injuring somebody. And I think maybe we should start thinking more about that than about the other things.
It's the long game. It's not what's happening immediately in your vehicle and the chance of being detected by police. It's really what happens if you end up in a collision and you're injured or somebody else is injured. It's the long game. It's we want everyone to survive happy, healthy, and safe. We want to reduce collisions that result in serious injury or death. That's the goal. That's why we're here. It's engaging on social media the way we are is all about trying to change outcomes, not because we're saying don't do it or else. We want you to be on our team because we do better when we work as a team. We want you to buy into the concept that you have a part to play in keeping everybody safe, both yourself and others.
It is, and as you say, it is a team. Everybody on the road is a team member.
Yeah,
so it's the other drivers near you, and I sometimes get involved with different groups. And some people are very quick to point fingers at other groups. And it's like, you know what? When you're pointing one finger, three are pointing at you. So look in the mirror first and decide, are you part of the problem or are you part of the solution? And part of the solution.
Absolutely. Yesterday, sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
Sorry, speaking of teams, I feel like the three of us make a great team, first of all.
No question.
But I think part of the reason is because, well, Sean and I, we come from a very, police-minded, enforcement-minded aspect. We do our best to educate as well. It's clearly part of our mandate. Scott is all about the education. He has actually a few other resources that I don't think we've referred to in this podcast yet or in this episode yet. We should plug them in because we want you guys to have access to that. Because while we can tell you what's legal and what's not legal, Scott can tell you how to be the best member of the roadway team. Right? Being the best member means keeping yourself, your dog, and everyone else on the road safe as well.
And I just threw it on. Oh yeah, well, and with that, we'll throw on screen that Scott has a blog. It's The Safe Driver, and it's available and on screen www.thesafedriver.ca. And of course, you can follow him on Twitter @SafeDriver. And he has a podcast, and I listen to that podcast. I'm a subscriber. Oh, I went to the wrong one. Hold on. The wrong button showed up. Here we go. Speed bumps. There we are. And see, that was a speed bump. Scott's podcast is available everywhere that podcasts can be played. It's the Safe Driving podcast called Speed Bumps. And it's great. I listen to it every Sunday when it comes out.
I know you guys do. Thank you so much. And I know you both follow me on Twitter as well. I used to come home and say, yeah, the police followed me again. Really? Yeah, on Twitter.
But it's good, and you know what? These conversations expose your content and safety messaging to more people, and we get positive feedback from our colleagues that are watching, and it's police officers consuming this content as well, and it's fantastic. We really appreciate it. We appreciate what you bring to us, and we really appreciate the viewers at home who are actually writing to us and enjoying the content. So it's awesome. We talk about what we do here. If you're watching us on Twitter, you know that we're at Traffic Services. If you're catching us on YouTube, I should put a banner here for YouTube. It's Toronto. It's Traffic Services Toronto Police. That's our username on YouTube. And when we finish here, we jump into TikTok, which is what's really hot, and we're at Traffic Services there, where we do a live Q&A, and the goal is to have all of us over there. We're working on blending the two lives into one, so we can have we had 300 people yesterday's. I think it was 300 people in the room at one time. Talking about traffic safety and just general questions about driving. So
I hope everyone was cool. Social distancing, and then the 300 of them.
I imagine they were. It's a very large room. We had viewers in the Philippines. We've had people from Germany before, and obviously that's a big room. It's funny. There was something I wanted to bring up quickly. I know we just plugged all the different places to plug, but yesterday I appeared on Zoomer Radio. We were discussing speed, and specifically the fact that there's a proposal in Toronto to reduce the speed in 3 wards to 30 kilometers an hour, and a lot of discussions. And there was a caller who called in saying, it's already slow in bike lanes, and there was a discussion about that. But going back to the whole teamwork thing, I want to just drill home the concept of things may take longer to get places when we slow down, or when we change the design of a road, or add safety, places for cyclists to be safe and pedestrians to be safe. There's a cost to it, and it might be time. But what we're asking for is for people to buy into the concept of cooperative driving. We're all trying to get to where we're going, regardless of how we're or what mode of transportation, whether it be feet or wheels of some kind. We just have to do it together, so we all get there safely.
Yeah, Ontario is other provinces have a 30K speed limit in a lot of zones as well, and Ontario is kind of behind on that. So we don't hear about it in BC and Alberta and whatnot. And in many cases, you're coming up to a stop sign or a red light anyway. So that extra 10K is seconds really in your city commute. So I get that people are in a hurry, but maybe leaving that extra 5 minutes ahead of time will get rid of that feeling that you're running behind.
Well, you create time by leaving early. There's no stress if you're early. And Brandon, what's the mantra? What's the police college statement?
What is it? They drilled it into us pretty good. So it was early is on time is late is unacceptable.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
You'll have to send me that so I don't forget that, Brandon.
We'll make you a sticker.
I think I'm going to incorporate that somewhere.
It's really usable. It makes sense. If you are if you're late before you leave the house, if you haven't provided yourself that planned travel time. And here we get to plug using a calendar, which is just like having, people don't wear watches anymore. That's it. I'm an old guy. I wear a watch, but I use the calendar, and the calendar gives me the ability to set travel time either by GPS geofencing, so it knows where I am and it checks local traffic to tell me when I need to leave. But also I can just say I need an hour to get anywhere. I don't make plans to say I'll be there in 5 minutes when it's a 30-minute drive, and that's not even factoring in traffic. So planning is everything. But maybe we'll do a whole discussion about it. We've got a little overtime tonight, but I wanted to talk about stuff and things.
If I may, before we go, I wanted to tell you like a quick personal story just on what you two were talking about leaving a little bit earlier and traveling 10 kilometers under really doesn't slow you down. Before I actually with my older car, it It was a terrible car. It was a Mazda 3, like an '05 or something like that. It was in rough shape. So I kind of had to go slow with it. And I found that while I was driving about, I would sit on whatever the limit was. I would just sit there, hit my cruise, and go. I was riding the right lane, and staying out of people's way, and people would blast by me, and then I would just see them at the next light. Blast by me, see them at the next light. And I timed it, and my time was almost exactly the same. If I left my house, hit cruise control, I was still getting to where I was going with maybe a 5-minute difference. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it is nothing, really.
Yeah.
Now, I will say though, I use Waze because I tend not to like sitting in traffic, and Waze allows me to use alternate paths, so I'm still moving. I'm enjoying the drive. I don't get there any faster. I acknowledge that it's not faster, but I'm moving.
Yeah, you know what? I commute into the GTA to my office, and my friends at 680 Traffic. There's a plug. I love them. I love them. I wrote an article about it, about just how great they are for traffic every 10 minutes. And my phone has a device on it that, Sean, that I can't really use my phone in the car to use Waze. And it sits in the phone holder, and until I get to where I'm going. So listening to traffic, when they give me alternatives that, certain roads are blocked, here's an alternative. Given the alternatives are fantastic. It's only when I get in the home and I'm off this week and I put on another station, I can listen to music in the car, not the traffic reports. So whatever we've got, whether it's Waze, whether it's the radio, it's and adding the time, it's you're still going to get there and just like chill.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something, going back to that concept of chill and being prepared and planning, if you're listening to that radio and you find out that there is a collision up ahead and traffic is reduced, because they say things like that on the radio, you can take that exit just before. And everyone who's not listening to the radio has no idea and is now sitting in bumper to bumper traffic.
I did that last week. The 401 was blocked. All lanes were blocked and traffic was being forced onto the 427. And I heard that before I got onto the 400 South. And I quickly took 407 and bypassed it all. So,
sometimes, it's amazing how that technology that isn't so new is very valuable.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like this technology.
Yeah, well, this is new technology-ish, and it's fantastic. We're loving this, and I really appreciate. Thanks, Scott, for coming and spending another week with us. And we look forward to we always look forward to having you on. So it's awesome.
I agree, and I enjoy it, and it's just something that like I said, I'm off this week, but I got up early for my week off, and sitting in my house doing this is great. And as long as we can make at least one more person to think about what they're doing behind the wheel, and having them make some changes, one person is all it takes each time, then we're going to make a difference.
Absolutely. It sounds corny to say that if we save just one life, it sounds like a movie line. It's true. If one person changes behavior that keeps them safe, then we've been successful today. And for every post and message that we share on social media, if it affects one driver, it was successful. Hopefully it affects many. So before we sign off, because I think it's that time, we'll just plug once again the TikTok, and we are going to be, we got to make a couple quick phone calls, and then we're going to go live on TikTok and answer Q&A there. So if you're on TikTok, come visit. The water's wonderful. If you're not on TikTok, go download the app. It's a free app and it's free to join. And our account is at Traffic Services. So with that, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful long weekend. We're not coming back until Tuesday. Tuesday we'll be back, and we have some exciting things happening on Tuesday.
That's right.
Yeah, lots of stuff. We'll talk more about it on Tuesday. So be sure to tune in at 7:30 Tuesday morning, and we'll put some reminders out on that the interwebs.
On the interweb. I love the interweb. Yes.
The Twitterverse and the interweb.
Yes, that's right. All right.
Awesome. Well, you guys have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you soon. Take care.
Take care, guys.
See ya. Bye.